Hey guys, the last part of day 2 is subtraction word problems. So I'm going to do number 1 with you, and then I'm going to do number 2 and 6 with you. So you'll notice here that they don't give us a lot of space, which is crazy. However, if you can, just grab a piece of loose leaf or a piece of computer paper, because we still want to be able to show our RDWW strategy. So here I have my computer paper where I'll draw out the picture for you and the number sentence, and we'll write the statement, and then on this blank we'll just put the answer. So let's get started. Remember, whenever we go to read, we want to make sure that we read the whole thing first, then we're going to chunk it. So number 1 says, Jack gathered 23,567 leaves while raking the lawn. His dog Spike ran through the pile of leaves and scattered 2,091 out of the pile. How many leaves are left in the pile? So now that we've read it once, let's go through and chunk it. So remember, when we chunk, we want to make a slash where there's a period, or sometimes a comma. So in this first sentence, Jack gathered 23,567 leaves while raking the lawn. We have a number, which means we need to draw that number out. So over here, I'm going to draw my box with 23,567 leaves. Okay, so now let's look at the next part. His dog. There's a comma, but is there anything important there? No. Spike, so again, they're just given the name, so nothing important, ran through the pile of leaves and scattered 2,091 out of the pile. So there's a lot of good information here. Not only do we have the number 2,091, but we also have a word in here that tells us that we're going to have to subtract. So what word do you think that is? Well, the word out. When something comes out, do we have more of it or less of it? We have less. So that tells me that this 23,567 is my total. And from there, Spike scattered out 2,091. And we'll label this as scattered out. Now we have our question. How many leaves are left in the pile? So again, we have another good word in here, left. Whenever we see that, we know that we need to subtract. So we are solving for a missing part. So we have our whole, one part, and now we're solving for how much is left. So let's go ahead and write that as a number sentence. 23,567 minus 2,091. Okay, so just like before, we need to ask ourselves if we can take away from the digit at the top. If we have 7 cookies, can we take away 1? Yes. 7 minus 1 is 6. If we have 6 cookies, can we take away 9? Nope. So we need to go next door to our neighbor and borrow some cookies. So when we borrow from the 5, that becomes a 4. Remember, we're borrowing 10, so 10 plus 6 is 16. So now we have 16 cookies. Can we take away 9? Of course. 16 minus 9 is 7. If I have 4 cookies, can I take away 0? Yes. 4 minus 0 is 4. If I have 3 cookies, can I take away 2? Yep. 3 minus 2 is 1. And then I have 2 minus 0, which would just be 2. So this means that we have 21,476 leaves left in the pile. So we need to write that in a statement. there are 21,476 leaves left in the pile, period. So then over here, we can just write 21,476 as our answer, but we still have our work shown over here. All right, let's look at our next one, number 2. It says, Mr. Smith bought a used car 2 years ago when the odometer, so an odometer tracks the number of miles a car has been driven, read 115,602 miles. The odometer currently reads 161,742 miles. How many miles has Mr. Smith driven since he purchased the car? So this is going to look a little bit different, but let's go ahead and chunk it first. So Mr. Smith bought a used car 2 years ago when the odometer read 115,602 miles. So I came to my first period, so I'm going to chunk it. I have a number, which means I can draw this out. So over here, I'm going to draw my box, and inside of it, we can put 115,602. Now, we need to determine what this represents. We know that this is how much was on the odometer when he bought the car. Okay, so now let's read our next part. The odometer currently reads 161,742 miles. So again, I have another number, 161,742, and this is what it currently reads. So we have to figure out, how are we going to draw this? Because right now it sounds like it's addition, but when you look at the question, it says, how many miles has Mr. Smith driven since he purchased the car? So really we're looking at the difference from whenever he bought it to what it is now. So we are comparing those two. So that means over here I need a comparing tape diagram. So this represents when he bought it. Now I need one that represents his current odometer, which is 161,742. And you'll notice that my tape diagram is a little bit larger here because we have a larger number. So think about, where is our question mark going to go? If we're trying to figure out how many miles has he driven since he purchased the car, where can we put our question mark? Well, we want to know the difference between when he bought it and what he has currently. So we're solving for this little bitty part here. And remember, whenever we are solving for a part, we are going to subtract. So let's go ahead and show that. 161,742 minus 115,602. All right, 2 minus 2 is 0. 4 minus 0 is 4. 7 minus 6 is 1. 1 minus 5. Can I do 1 minus 5? No. I need to go over next door to the 6 and borrow. So when I borrow from the 6 will become a 5. And then this 1 will become an 11 because we added 10. 10 plus 1 is 11. So 11 minus 5 is 6. 5 minus 1 is 4. And then 1 minus 1 is 0. So how many miles has Mr. Smith driven since he purchased the car? Well, he has driven 46,140 miles. So we're going to put that in a statement. Mr. Smith has driven 46,140 miles since he purchased the car. Period. All right, so we're going to record our answer and our blank over here. So 46,140. All right, last one, number 6. So remember, we're going to read through all of it first, and then we'll chunk it, we'll draw it, write our numbers in it, and then write our statement. The school bus Aiden rides on travels 6,336 miles a school year, taking students to and from school. The bus has 5,145 miles left to go this school year. How many miles has the bus driven so far this school year? So this tape diagram is going to look a little bit different too, and I'm going to show you why. But let's go ahead and chunk it. It says the school bus Aiden rides on travels 6,336 miles a school year, taking students to and from school. So we have our first period. And inside of that sentence, we have a number, which means we need to draw that number out. So I'm going to draw my first box. And we have 6,336. Okay. Now let's look at our next sentence. The bus has 5,142 miles left to go this school year. So there's two things in here that are important. One, it gives us a number to draw. And then two, it has that word left in it. So remember, when something's left, it typically tells you to subtract. So in our tape diagram, we normally put our next part here in this first part. However, since it said that they had this much left, we want to put it over here. So they had 5,142 miles left. And it says, how many miles has the bus driven so far this school year? So this would represent the amount that's driven. Now, technically, it really doesn't matter where you put it, but I wanted to show y'all that we normally figure out what's left, but this time it gave us what was left, and we have to figure out what was being taken away. So we still have a missing part. So when we have a missing part, we know to subtract. So let's show that. 6,336 minus 5,142. 6 minus 2 is 4. 3 minus 4. Oh, can't do that. If I have 3 cookies, I can't eat 4. So I got to go next door. When I borrow from the 3 becomes a 2. And I give a 10 to this 3. So 10 plus 3 is 13. 13 minus 4 is 9. 2 minus 1 is 1. And then 6 minus 5 is 1. So far the bus has driven 1,194 miles. So let's put that in a statement. The bus has driven, 1,194 miles so far this school year. Period. So over here, for number 6 in our blank, we're going to put 1,194. All right, some of y'all may be able to fit your work in these, but it is a tight squeeze. I just really want you to make sure you practice your tape diagrams. It's so important, guys, to write those out, even if you know what you're supposed to do. So use my model to help, and I want you to finish the rest on your own.